Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. Each episode, we share soul driven advice and topics to help you live more brightly in mind, body, and spirit. Through sharing our experiences, friendship, and passions, we hope to impact you to step more brightly into yourself, inch by inch.
Hey there, Tracy.
Hey, Amy. So, in our last episode, episode 53, you brought up the concept of beginner's brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought up that I don't like to struggle in public.
Yes.
And I have a secret that probably won't surprise you. I don't like to struggle in general.
You know what? So I'm going to share something with you. I was considering your statement of, I don't like to struggle in public. And I was thinking to myself, no one likes to struggle in public. But Tracy really doesn't like to struggle in public.
Really don't like it. Really don't. Well, but to me, like, it's not even. So it just reminded me when TikTok first became a thing in my life at the start of the pandemic. People were sharing all parts of their lives. Now it's a bit more curated. It's a lot of creators, people making money off of it. But when it was still kind of like new amongst adults or, people, 30 and up, I was just struck by, wait, people practice things?
Did you think you had to be good right out of the gate?
Yes. I didn't think somebody was just going around and anointing people with skills and talents, and I got skipped that day. Wouldn't that be the life?
That's horrible.
Right? Isn't that the plot of the book, The Giver? I should know. I tell people it's my favorite book, but it's really been 30 years since I read it. But anyways, so this is kind of not really what we do. We're talking about on the show, but people wanted to learn how to twerk, which is a way of shaking your booty in a certain way.
Yeah.
And I just assumed that either you could or you couldn't, right? Like, it was just something that when people did it in the club, they just knew how to do it. They were just moved by the music, moved by the moment. Jesus had touched them.
Somebody was.
I'm sure. Oh, yeah. I'm sure like all, all things. But like what TikTok showed me was like all these people being like, what am I doing wrong? Or, okay, they say it's in the knees, but it's not in the knees for me. Like, and just showing how themselves practicing, or like people being like, yeah, I used to think I was doing a really deep squat when I started working out, but then I started recording myself and like, no. And like, now I can see my progress. And I'm just like, I am so used to as a child, I was just good at something or I wasn't. And I assumed that was true for everybody. And if I wasn't good at it, I didn't do it.
My heart is kind of breaking.
Oh, well, I'm getting by and fine in life.
Okay.
But like, you said something to me because I'm struggling with feeling more open to practicing things and getting out of that childlike mindset of I can't do it, right? Like all little kids.
Your childlike mindset.
A lot of little kids, like little toddlers and stuff, the terrible twos, they'll be like, no, I can't. And like before they even do it, no, I can't. No, I can't.
Okay.
And so I loved your beginner's brain concept of just approaching it with curiosity, and it's okay to be bad. And everybody who is an expert was probably bad at some point. But when I started dating again last year, I said something to you about it. And I was like, well, I'm not super sure if I'm into this guy and I'm really anxious about dating. And I don't want to use him as practice. And you were just, without skipping a beat, you're like, Tracy, life is practice. I was like, oh my God, it is. Like, why? Like, here I thought I missed the dress rehearsal.
No, we're all just on this earth practicing living lives.
Uh-huh. I was taking that whole fake it till you make it thing a little too hard. So, and you're probably going to answer my next question. And when I came up with this, I wasn't aware of the conversation we just had on beginner's brain, but Are you a practicer? Do you?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, that is a valid question because as much as I want to cultivate a beginner's brain, I am a practicer, especially if it's like something that I'm like, I want to be able to do that. And so then I practice at it. Now, I'm also very much a person who's like, oh, I suck at this even with practice, and I'm okay with that.
I don't have that. I will be picking your brain later about that. But if you have fun with it, I think that's the key thing to remember, whether it's beginner's brain or practicing starting something new or just doing something, no matter how good you are at it. Like, I just think about people who are like, I know I'm a terrible dancer. I'm going to dance anyways. I feel good doing it. I have fun doing it. Right. And I never make fun of those people, presuming they're not pretending or saying or purporting to be, well, I'm the best dancer, right? Like, if there's no ego involved, if they're just out there cutting loose and having fun, actually I'm a little envious of that, because I'm stuck in my dance competition mindset. And like, I don't know the steps. I didn't pre-choreograph a routine. I don't know the song, right? Like, so I'm wondering, what sorts of things then do you find that you regularly practice? Because a lot of people call meditation a practice.
Yeah.
Right? Like, a lot of people call things that they already do. I mean, therapists have a practice, right? Like,
really good point. Ooh, yeah. So, I mean, so you hit on the first thing, meditation. I honestly went into meditation, who knows how many years ago, thinking that oh yes, the first time you meditate, you are one with the universe, and like the sky opens up and all these brilliant and the guides talk to you, and no. And so the good thing with knowing that it's a practice is that sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not, but that doesn't stop me from practicing. So yes, meditation is definitely something I practice. I practice cooking. Because,
and here I'd say you're a wonderful cook.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I love the idea that you consider yourself a practitioner.
Yes, because I am new to this form of cooking that I'm doing. I mean, not as new as I was 3 years ago. Wow. It's a while ago. Yeah. But so to me, it still is a practice. I practice being mindful. I practice being patient. I practice a lot of different things. I should be practicing my writing, but so have you been able to start practicing?
No, but I have overanalyzed and have a few thoughts on why.
Good. I want to hear them.
So like I said, I have this mindset, and I've learned through social media, God bless it, it's really helped humanize some of the things I have not said out loud in life. The concept of, if I'm not immediately good at it, I don't pursue it. And that's a perfectionistic, tendency. And some of it I feel like is an impatience. Like, when I have the idea that I want to cross stitch this thing for my friend for a gift, her birthday's next week. I have to get it right the first time. I don't have the time to sit and practice my stitches over and over and over again.
Many layered, right?
Like,
Tracy?
It's like, I have an idea, I see a thing, I presume I can do it, and sometimes it works really good for me, Amy. I'm really good at. I'm an idiot savant several times over. The first time I do some things, I'm real good at it, and then when I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this. And I have to like actually learn technique and sit through it, and not just, that kind of like that procrastination, like energy drive you get. It takes a lot of patience to learn a new skill. Don't have it.
Oh boy. Okay. This is so layered, especially with like, oh yes, I want to do this cross stitch and her birthday is next week and it has to be perfect. It's like, yup.
Yeah, I had an idea. I invested all this money. I only have this amount of time I want to put into it. What do you mean it takes X amount of hours to learn this? I just think when it comes to cross stitch, I don't know if this is true or not, or if it was made up, but there's like this old timey 1800s cross stitch, and the girl, it just says like, Sarah practiced whatever stitch it was for 45 minutes and hated every moment of it. Like, it was like her passive aggressive way to get back at her parents for making her practice.
I love it.
I didn't want to make that. Um, yeah, so patience, I think, goes into being willing to practice something. I think my ego gets in the way too of that concept. You know, when you think everybody's just immediately good at something and you can't do it on the first try, that kind of wounds you, right? Like,
I want to interject something here, and it's going to be a sports analogy, but that's what
we're all about here.
So think about professional athletes.
Mm-hmm.
They don't just get good and then stop practicing.
Right?
They continue to practice.
I had that note further down, or if I didn't, I meant to, that Serena Williams still practices. She just practices at a much higher level than I will ever try.
Exactly.
Right? No, I love that. Like reframing it, right? Like it doesn't even have to, and especially, you know, social media does make it seem like everybody's so good at things. Like even looking at like those dude perfect trick shots, like they say they do thousands and they only show you the one that went perfect.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But yeah, so patience, ego. I don't like to be stupid. I don't like feeling stupid. And with that beginner's brain,
nobody does,
right? Nobody does. But with the beginner's brain, you talked about like be open to being stupid. Like, why should I know how to cross stitch? No one's taught me that before. It's not a skill I need in my day to day. I'm sure Sarah Beth or whoever was passive aggressive on that thing, I don't think she knows how to record a podcast, and I do. Right? Like, so there's been absolutely like so many of the skills I want to do. There's been absolutely no reason for me to learn it, right? Like it's my own curiosity and interest in it that's driving it. And I have
to sorry, I interrupted, but I feel like, and this might have been the last episode where you shared that there were certain things, or it might have been this episode 5 minutes ago, early in life as a kid that you just were like automatically good at.
Yeah.
Right. And so I feel like, especially for you, because you had that here's the proof of concept that I'm good at these things without any practice. I am good at everything.
And I think one thing you've helped me kind of like figure out about myself is how I look into, analyze, plan, and pre-think about things. Most people don't do that. So in a sense, those things that I was naturally good at, I was kind of practicing in my head in a way, right? Like I was getting myself ready for it. And so those times when I'm like, oh, I was just great at aim. I watched some YouTube videos, right? Like I didn't just show up to the axe throwing club, right? Like I didn't want to look dumb in front of a cute guy. Like, no, I looked up like, what are some tips and tricks, my dudes? I'm not saying I could repeat any of them now, but it probably definitely played into me feeling confident and just like I was naturally good at it when I got there.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then, you know, when you have that high ego going into something, when you feel stupid, when you have low on patience, it's really easy to just get discouraged when it gets hard.
Yes. So not only are you feeling bad, it's sort of like this double whammy of like, I want to do this. I can't do it. Now I'm really upset. And then I immediately go back to the toddler who's now screaming on the floor. Right. They're just
kind of like an internal tantrum.
Yeah. Yeah.
After my back surgery, a friend of mine gave me a video game console and some of her favorite games. So she had since upgraded and was like, here, I've played all these. You'll have fun with this. And I struggled with some of the newer stuff because it's a new console and all that. But I was reminded I have all my consoles from when I was a kid. What a fun time to just like sit in the basement and play my original 1984 Nintendo, right?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wait, Amy. I got frustrated and stopped playing games at the same place I did the last time I played it as a kid. I have not grown as an individual. I will never know these future levels of Mario because I'm afraid of him drowning in the water and get too anxious. I've not moved past that. Then I moved on to, I'm going to rewatch this TV show. And I got sick of it at the same place I got sick of it when I watched it live. I was like, I am never going to see season 4 of Lost. And I just have to embrace that. Right?
Okay. Well, if you ever want to see season 4, don't start with season 1. Just start with season 4.
But yeah, so I found like that discouragement and the roadblocks is something I have been avoiding working through since a kid, right? So not
Yeah.
only when you're starting something new, do you have to work at practicing the thing, you have to work at practicing that beginner's mindset you told us about.
Yes. But then I also want to talk about you have to practice that wall, right? That wall that you hit where you can't get further. You have to practice like maybe that's where beginner's mindset could help you. Like, how could I get around this wall? How could I get better at Mario Brothers?
So one of the things that I think of for this is reparenting yourself. And
Oh,
so in those times when you're doing it and you're discouraged, you have to be your own nurturer. You have to be your own mom, whatever parent you
yeah.
find nurturing, or just your adult self to your younger wounded self and kind of talk your way through it, or like you would with a friend. Um, I once did a rope course where you're, feet, 2, 3 stories off the ground, tied up with ropes. And then you
Mm-hmm.
like go along a tightrope and like all these different things. And you do this course. And I did it once for somebody's bachelorette party and was the last one and was completely terrified and like froze and like realized my fear of heights from 7th grade is true. And I just regretting everything that got me here. Can't turn
It's true.
around.
And it's an important fear.
Right. It's innate in us. And like the guy who works there was trying to encourage me and probably trying to reparent me in an aspect and like get me to believe I could move forward. And not only do I remember saying this to my core, but they reminded me of it when I finished. But it was like, that's great, guy who's done this 1,000 times and is currently getting paid sitting up here like a bird. I'm doing it for the first time, right? And I was like, I'll never do it again. So then flash forward the next year, somebody else in that group gets married and is like, guess what we're doing for the bachelorette party? And I was like, I hate this whole concept. I hate all of it. But I was like, you know what? I've done it before. I'll do it again. And I was still terrified. I was like, you know what?
Wow.
Have me go last. And if when I get to like that first one, if I feel the feelings I felt the first time, I'll just turn around and climb down the ladder, right? Like if I'm the last one, I won't hold up anybody. And everyone was cool with that. The girl in front of me, who was all confident and like went into it no fear, completely froze where I froze. And so I was no longer thinking of myself and instead focused on walking and teaching her it and giving her encouragement. And before I knew it, we were both done. And then they told me there was this one part of the course, it was the fastest they'd ever seen anybody do it.
Making me
Right.
cry.
And like the whole time
Oh
I
my
wasn't focusing on like the first time I did it. And then this time I was like, I got to get good. I got to do this. These are new skills. I have to, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And everybody else here has done it before. And I got to learn. And like, what's the best way? And the second time I wasn't focused on any of that. I was just focused on doing because I wasn't even focused.
But you were focused on another person and their state of mind, and you
Yeah.
wanted them to feel better and be able to get through it.
Yeah. And so I think of, they say the best way to learn something is to teach it.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Ooh, I love this.
So
Okay.
you can either take that literally and like try to learn something by thinking you're going to teach someone else. But what I'm thinking of for a few of the stuff I want to do is I'm going to teach myself while I do it. Right. Like,
Okay.
or and try and take the focus off the fact I think I've shared before on here because it's something I talk about a lot. But there was 2-3 years ago, I felt like I was a beginner at everything in life, and it just made me feel really down and hard on myself. And like when I think of you talking about a beginner's mindset, like what a great time to be in life. Like I'm not beholden to any way to do things. Everything can be new and fresh. It should be a time of curiosity. Right. So just like thinking of ways to practice that I can teach myself the skill, bring in others and teach them, and not always be looking for a mentor to teach me and feeling like I don't know what I'm doing.
Wow. I love that so much. And I feel like part of what we do on this show is that it's like we want to either enhance some of these things that we talk about, or we want to dive into some of these things that we talk about. And so we talk about them. And so in a way, it's like we're doing it so that we're learning more. But I love that you are going to teach yourself as you're doing it. I want to hear more about that after you've done it for a
Okay.
while. And yeah.
Challenge accepted. Yeah. Instead of sitting on the struggle bus, right? I'm just going to be like that frustrated teacher of like, how can I get this through to Tracy? Like, what's
So it's not only is it a teacher, it's also sort of like you're reparenting as well.
absolutely.
It's both. It's this combination, this beautiful combination. I feel like we could use that in so many aspects of our life to be like our own coach and our own parent, reparent.
Yeah. And I know because mom, you listen, hi, she was a wonderful encourager. I'm not saying that like they didn't encourage me to do hard things. And hopefully she'll comment on social media if I'm wrong. But I feel like when you have kids that are just so good at so many things and have high aspirations, get hard on themselves, you're not going to push them to learn the thing they're bad at, right? Like when we even talk about that,
Right.
like play to your strengths.
Right.
But also like as I get older and I want to do things, I want to develop skills or have new hobbies, you have to start as a beginner, and that can be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So you had, said to me, life is practice.
Mhm.
So what does using life as practice mean to you overall?
Honestly, you know what life as practice means to me is that what what are you so anxious about? What are you so worried about? Release like these perceived outcomes that you think you're supposed to be achieving. Like this is practice. It also doesn't mean you get to just like sit on the couch and read, which is some days that's what I would just like to do all day long. But it's also okay to not be great at everything. It's okay to not maybe have a direct plan for something. It's okay. And once again, with that okay, if there's a caveat with that okay, once again, you should be moving forward. You still should be moving forward because if we practice at what we want to get better at, one would assume we want to get better at lifing, right? So I don't know. I feel like I'm missing something really big here and
Well,
it's just not coming.
when you said it to me, because my what I was avoiding at the time was a relational experience, right? It wasn't necessarily a hard skill, it was a soft skill, but one that can impact your life greatly, right? And I already do that, I'm not so worried about them liking me as much as I am about me liking them. But you saying that gave me permission to just show up, right? To not have to know how to be the perfect date, right? To just allow for the experience to happen as
and
it
all
happens.
these weird unwritten rules about dating and how
it's
to be
okay
with another person.
If it's a bad date, I get a story out of it, right? And I'm ready for the next one. And whether that practice taught me how to have better discernment in choosing a date or, how to just enjoy the experience moving forward. I don't know. I had all these anxieties about it because it involved another person and a stranger at that. And in a sense, somebody you're trying to, impress in a way, right? With just being who you are. And so, it allowed me to show up, but it becomes a belief system then, right? Like we're ingrained with practice makes perfect. And that is not what you're actually practicing for. You'll never get there. And so I'm a much better fan of now, and like what my new mantra is as I explore some things I want to look into is practice makes improvement.
Ooh, I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and then Les Anderson, I'll share on Instagram a snippet of a speech of his I heard, kind of like a TED Talk, but I think he predates that by quite a bit. But it's practice makes progress.
Yeah, I really like that. And I feel like that is something that could be used for anything, whether it's an actual physical skill, a mental way of being, how you are on dates, whatever.
Well, and you said you should be moving forward. And for some things, that's true. I once had an employee that I said, I want to know what your career goals are. Cause she took a step back in her career to work in the position, that I was supervising. And I said, look, if you want to be XYZ in this role, like you took this step down just to get into my organization, right? Great. I will help you create that track and we will do things, to prepare you for opportunities. But if you just want to ride this sweet gig into retirement, I am so okay with that, but I want you to grow within it, right? I want you to get really good at what it is you're doing so you don't get bored, right? Like,
love that. Like, yeah, you can ride this, but get really good within it.
Get really good within it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes practice helps you maintain the skills you developed. So if I were to say, I want to be an archer, right? But I don't want to compete. I'm not looking to be in the Olympics. I just want to feel like if I point and aim and shoot, I'll hit what I'm aiming at and I'll feel confident in what I do and I'll still enjoy it. I still have to practice that to maintain whatever it is I built up. If I don't do it for a while, it'll go away. And so keep that in mind too. Like sometimes practice isn't always about starting over, starting new. It's about not having to go back to the beginning.
I really like that as well. And also just start with season 4 on Lost. but that makes me think of like physically, like muscles. You get muscles to a certain place. And then if you just stop, they're going to revert back to what they were before.
Yeah. And like, and then the type of practice you do determines your results, right? So like, let's say you get to a certain point with your strength, you can either add reps and add weight and grow your muscles, or you can do something else and just maintain the strength you had, right? Like you can, and so it's all about kind of knowing the destination you want to go to, but just knowing you have to, like you said, you have to show up, right? You can take breaks, but you have to show up. And then when focusing on progress and improvement over perfection, I think what really gets me with that patience piece is it's about small gains.
And do you feel like that might be the tough part for you, or small gains?
Absolutely. I am all in nothing.
Yeah.
I want to know if I do the thing, I can do the thing. But I also am finding, part of it too is, I went to college and I worked 2 to 3 jobs. I didn't really have hobbies, right? And I wasn't out getting jobs that gave me skills beyond customer service and retail, right? Like I needed a flexible schedule to go to school. And then I ended up not doing the things from school. Or doing the things I went to school for. And so I feel like as an adult, I'm behind, right? Like if I start a hobby, I should be at a certain place, but
oh man, you got a lot on your shoulders.
Yeah. But so as I've been starting things, like I've found other people who are new to archery and like they showed up with all this gear and the swag and seemed really good at it. And now that I'm friends with them, they're like, I never should have bought that before class. I would have done everything different.
Oh, really?
And then I've met other women that are just like, I just started a dance class. You seem like you're into starting new things. Do you want to start blah, blah, blah class with me? And it was like, oh, we're all out here starting new things. This is great.
Yeah. It's like a new things club. I love it.
A new things club.
I think that's also life. Life is practice. And it's also a new things club, like everyone in your whole entire universe.
Yeah. And I think, my 20s were so much about like creating yourself, building yourself, and you weren't really doing hobbies, right? Like you were focused on job and partners and starting families and all that. But now that I'm looking at my friends as we approach our late 30s, early 40s, kids are getting older and they don't need as much of their time. And now everyone's kind of looking for new hobbies. Right. And so
that's so interesting.
It might be timing.
Yeah. I feel like people who are in my age group maybe stop doing the things that they loved or the hobbies that they had. And now it's like, hey, I used to like that. I wonder if I could still do it again. Or it's even just getting into the mindset of, oh, I could do something other than just watch TV at night, or,
right. Well, I look to my parents because my mom had babies almost straight out of high school, right? She had them really young and we're 3 girls between 1 and 9 years apart. So by the time the youngest graduated from high school, she was barely in her 50s. And granted, we were still doing college and other stuff, but really didn't need her. So then she went to start all these new passions of hers. She started a photography business. She ran this sensory animal thing for children with autism. Started doing all this stuff.
Wow.
And so as a 20 something, I was really annoyed because I was like, my mom is always busy and I still need her. I don't live here, but like, what do you mean you have plans? What do you mean you're doing this? What do you mean you're taking a class? What do you mean you're doing what? But now as an adult, I was like, God, I'm so happy she didn't go into like empty nest syndrome and just like completely lose herself and get depressed. Right. And like I remember growing up, we always had a nice camera, or they'd rent a camera and we'd have all these photo shoots and stuff, just family stuff. And she was able to really take that and turn that into a business. And now it's not a business anymore, but my sisters all have amazing photos of their kids now. Right. Like, and so she's still kind of doing it and she still loves it.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's just, there isn't an age limit. You just have to be willing to practice and learn. Yeah. So probably not, but Amy, I want you to think about, and you don't have to have an answer, but I want everyone to think about, is there anything you've been putting off because you wouldn't be good at it? Or maybe putting off finishing?
Oh, well, stop it right now.
You brought it up earlier. No shame, no guilt.
Yeah. But something that I would like to start, but I don't because I wouldn't be good at it, are legion. There are all kinds of things that I would love to start, but I don't think that I'd be good at it. And so I don't. Typically it has to do with things like, actually the funny thing is most of these things that I'm thinking of, I did as a very young person, like play the piano. Well, I used to take piano lessons, or, dance. Like that woman said, hey, do you want to do this dance class? But see, that was one of those things where pretty good at like tap and jazz, but ballet. And I wanted to be a ballerina and on toe, on point. And I am what is called earthbound. So
that's a self-limiting thought. We need to begin your brain that.
But I did do it for a while. And luckily I was self-aware enough and I was okay with it enough to be able to go, oh, this is not my path. This is not for me. But
do you think you'd revisit it as an adult just to have fun with it?
Well, what I would like to do, and I've never done, my husband's a very good dancer. I always wanted to take like couples, like salsa and, whatever those other dances
there, remind me of that. I have a thought for you.
Okay. So I would love to do that, but I am very much, I don't have, even though I took dance, it's like, I don't, just like the arms start flailing and the legs start going. And I have a lot of fun, but there is no rhythm there.
Well, we'll do it not with Dancing with the Stars in mind, but the fun. Right. Well, that's heartening to me that even though you have a lot of confidence where I don't in certain things or approach it differently, that there are still some things that you want to start practicing or that are still kind of.
Are you kidding me? I want to do parkour. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be running and leaping and cavorting. I want to do jujitsu. I want to do tai chi. Like there's all kinds of things I want to do, but I also want to be alive and have my muscles and legs and bones.
That is true. Sometimes it's not a mental block. It is just what are my other goals in life block. Well, okay, then how about this? What's something you do daily you could practice in a new way or with a new goal?
Well, dang, Tracy. So something I do daily is I do journal daily. And so maybe what I could do with that is actually maybe still journal, but use some of that time for writing. I don't know. It's just a thought finishing that book.
For me, I've mentioned before, I really like to cook, but I find that I most often do it for other people. I'm an acts of service person. That's when it brings me joy. When it's just for me, it becomes a bit laborious, right? And it's all the steps. It's the meal planning, the shopping, the dishes, it becomes many things instead of one thing. So I think I'm going to practice it in a new way of like, I get to nourish myself. I get to take care of myself. I get to like I have a kitchen. I have access to Trader Joe's, right? Like I have just kind of reframing it and then just practicing. This is going to sound silly, it just came to me, but like practicing feeding myself, right? Like I eat every day. I do a good job of that, but like, what am I feeding myself? and approaching it that way. And the new goal to be to enjoy the process of giving myself an act of service.
I like that. Yes. Wow. That is lovely. I love it. Well, everyone, if you loved it, thank you so much for listening, first of all. And hey, share it with a friend. And if you have time, give us some love on your preferred platform with a rate, review, and subscribe. You can also reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube under The Brightly Podcast or via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com.
And with that, we hope you have a bright and beautiful day.